Hello, welcome back to Up the Villa. Welcome to Transfer Hub, your home of Aston Villa's transfer news, rumours, links, noise, murmurings, incomings and outgoings. You'll find it here over the course of the January transfer window. On today's episode, we're going to run through some of the key things that have been happening within the Aston Villa transfer window. Two big things have happened, so stay tuned for that. And we're also going to do the tactical debrief for West Ham. So we're going to go in depth tactically. We're going to review the goals. We're going to look into the performance with a lot more detail. So hopefully you all enjoy the episode. If you do, I want three things from you. First of all, I want you to subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you are watching regularly and you aren't subscribed, then just hit the subscribe button. It helps me out massively and I appreciate you all. We can have a like target. We'll go big on this one. We'll go for 900 likes. And most importantly, comment your thoughts in the comment section down below. So the big thing, the big talking point is that Monchi is on location. Monchi was in the stands for Rayo Celta last night. Aston Villa and Oscar Mingueza deal on an Aston Villa director Monchi in attendance at the game. So absolutely huge. It looks like we are in negotiations with Mingueza. So hopefully that one can get done. Hopefully he's had a meeting with someone of their hierarchy from their board to sort of get this whole thing moving along a little bit quicker. There was one interesting aspect of this game, and a lot of you will be intrigued to see what has been going on. So in this game, there were two right backs on show. Right back number one was Oscar Mingueza, and right back number two was Ratiu, who had a better game than Mingueza. You can't really just say, oh, we'll go for Mingueza then, basically based off this and one game. But it was interesting that both right backs have been linked with Villa. They both played in the same game, and Monchi was at this game. So Fabrizio is tweeting that it was Mingueza that he was looking at. But I imagine he might have had a little cheeky side eye, just watching how Ratiu plays, watching how he's doing and seeing what's going on with his performance as well. So I think that one was really interesting to see that both players were on show. We've got some other news coming from the Daily Mail. This improved bid has been doing the rounds across most journalists as well. Aston Villa make improved 21 million bid for Borussia Dortmund star Donyell Malen, while Jhon Duran remains a top target for another European giant. So, again, the Donyell Malen, we're negotiating, we're bidding, we're actively talking with Dortmund. So it's good to see that we're still involved in this one. I do believe that this one will get done and will happen. Jhon Duran, on the other hand, that noise is, for me, it's always going to be there. We will go into every single transfer window with noise of Jhon Duran leaving Aston Villa, whether it's PSG, Barcelona, whoever. It's just always going to be there. So it looks like we've set a price this window of 85 million. So if an astronomical amount of money comes our way, then I imagine we probably would sell. I think if you're hearing what Emery's been saying in his press conferences regarding Carlos and Philogene, he's been speaking about it's what the good of Aston Villa is. And I think they know that sort of a player has a price. And in our current situation, you know, for as much as we're loving Duran, for as much as we're loving Watkins, for as much as we're loving some of these players, if £85 million comes in and enables us to spend more money and grow as a football club, then I think it will I think it will happen in time. You know, look, I'm not saying I want to sell Duran. I do not want to sell Jhon Duran whatsoever. But that noise of him going is just always going to be there. He's just that type of he's that type of player, and I think he's got that type of agent where, you know, we've heard that he spoke to Deco in November at Barcelona. His agent spoke to Deco. You know, it's just all going on, and it just doesn't surprise me. And I just think you've got to be prepared for every single window for there to be talk of Jhon Duran leaving while he still currently plays for Aston Villa. I just think that's the way it is. PSG are linked with Duran, and we are also now linked with Marco Asensio. This is coming from Fabrice Hawkins, who broke the Duran PSG news as well. Marco Asensio is one of the players being monitored by Aston Villa this winter. We know that Asensio, before he went to PSG from Real Madrid, was heavily linked with Aston Villa. So looks like we're still watching this player as well. Is he a player that is currently needed? If we get in Marlon and Mingueza, would this be the one that just sort of rounds the window off nicely? So I think it's interesting to keep an eye on Asensio. And I did the episode a couple of days ago about Tidiam Gomez, the young player that is from Cannes. So Aston Villa are in advanced talks to sign 18-year-old forward Tidiam Gomez. So he's one for the future as well. So there's a little bit of a transfer roundup. That's everything that's going on at the minute. So we'll get stuck into the debrief then. So yesterday's first half performance was absolutely shockingly bad. It was terrible. I remember just being in the whole tent last night thinking, first half, this team is unrecognisable at times. I was just like, I don't get it. I don't get what we're doing. I don't get why we're moving it so slowly. I think the big thing as well is that we've got to start using the width far better than what we are at times. In the first half, we'd just what's happening is, if I can show you on the tactical pad now. So I've just got a random Villa players in here. This is just how it's set up, but I'd prefer to be able to show you. So if we've got this right here now, so let me just try and move Ramsey out then. So I'll try and make it so it was realistic from yesterday's team. So we'll get Rodgers, we'll get Tielemans. So where's right? There we go. Right, here we go. So we should be at a better phase of what we were for Villa. So yeah, we'll leave that as it is. Right. So what's happening, and this is classic from a lot of teams when the team that you're playing aren't as good as what you are, and what they will do, what a lot of teams will do, if you're playing a team that's inferior to you, what they decide to do is block out the middle of the pitch. Now, our biggest strength is to be able to play through that middle of the pitch. And what was happening in that first half was we'd got Rodgers, who was getting into a little bit more of a central area. So we've got Rodgers, we've got Watkins, we've got Maatsen, who was here. The shape of our team was pretty much really like this at times. It was more of a back three where we'd got Concert and Mings. So we were looking like this for large periods of the game. In that first half, this is how we were looking. So the ball that was on most times was this ball here. Mings to Maatsen. That was the ball that was on a lot of the times. Now, what you've got to do when a team have set up like this against us is move it out wide quickly. It's got to go to Maatsen and it's got to go to Bailey. Because what happens, because they're set in the middle of the pitch, we've got a 1v1. Now, if you delay, you then have a 2v1. because you're allowing the midfielder to get across and block out Matson. So the ball has to go quickly out wide to both sides. And then once it goes out wide, we've then got to attack. We've got to go forward. But what was happening in that first half was Mings would delay, it would go to Matson, and it'd just go back, and it would go back. And the same thing happened time and time again. There was no movement from any of those front players. We want to get into this formation. We want to get into a 3, a 2, and we want to have a front 5. That is what we want to get into. But if you're moving it so slowly, but then sometimes once the attackers have got to get on the ball, they've got to drive, they've got to attack, they've got to get to the byline, they've got to beat a man, because that's where we've got to create our chances. If that middle of the pitch is being blocked out, we've got to use the width a lot better. But we've also got to have more movement from a lot of our attacking players as well. So, bitterly frustrating with how we played in the first half. We'll go through the first half and then we'll have a look at what was going on in the second half as well, and what was massively better in the second half compared to the first half. Now, we'll start talking about Villa's big problem. The big problem for Aston Villa at the minute is that we are conceding pretty much every single game from our first shot on target. This is absolutely shocking now. It has got to stop, and we've got to get better. Now, West Ham started the game pretty well, as you would imagine. They were up for it. They were confident. They got more self-belief about them. But for the first phase of the game, we were just doing things bad. And this was in the first 36 seconds of the game. And it's followed on from the goal. Now, the biggest problem here is this. It's the fact that we have got our back 3 here. So our back 3, and we've got nobody protecting the Aston Villa defence, because we've got Somerville. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players that have got in behind our midfield. Where's the midfield gone? Where's that protection? How have we got 5 players that are in between our midfield and our defence in the first 36 seconds of a game? And we see these mad flurries in games where they will have this spell at the start of the game. They'll get their goal, and you won't see them again. You won't see them attacking again. We start to get our control of the game, and even though we're not creating much, we're not doing much with it, we're the one with possession of the football, not the opposition. They're not peppering our goal every 5 seconds. So we've got to cut out this little malaise in games where we're so stretched and we're scrambling around. And it was the exact same thing for the goal. Now, I can't remember what goal it was, but this is a carbon copy of a goal that we've seen in the Premier League this season, because I've done the debrief for it, but I can't remember what the game was. It was a big punt forward, and we lose the ball in midfield, and they're able to break on. I think it was Crystal Palace. I'm sure it was Palace. So what's happened here now is we've tried to press, and we've not won the ball back. So we've allowed this player to absolutely smack it upfield. The next phase is it's got in here. And I can't believe how exposed this back 4 is. Again, we've just seen it in 36 seconds. This is 7 minutes later, and we're still in the same situation. Again, how many players were in between our midfield? Because that is our midfield there. That's our deepest line midfielder in Boubacar Kamara. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4 players in front of our back three or four in this instance. And then your next gap to your double pivot is here. That gap is too big. Where's the protection from both of those players? We are the wrong side here. We need to have a midfielder that's going to be in here, that's in front of some of these players, that it's closer, so it stops them from winning the ball. And then what ends up happening is they get a little flick on. It goes to one of these players in here. He knocks that ball into that channel over there, and we are absolutely miles off it. And this is a structural problem that we've seen at the start of this game, and we've got to be better here. So we can see as it runs on that again, all we've got here is Kamara, and we've got a big problem here now because there's an overload in midfield. It's a 2v1. So Kamara is up against two players. He's going to have to try and sense some form of danger. Cash is occupied. Maatsen is occupied. You know, these two players are having to stay in line and be in their correct position. But these two here, Rodgers and Barkley, just scrambling around. You know, so we have an absolute shocker. And you can see that 2v1 overload still. The only way this gets solved is if we have an Aston Villa player that is tracking Paqueta and can stop Paqueta, because this was just slow motion for me. Because again, who picks up the ball? That 2v1 where our midfield is completely bypassed, exposed, and that's your Barkley. That's Barkley's finishing position. So got to defend better. First shot on target in the back of the net, and we're just exposed. So for all of this control that we want to have and controlling games, for this period of 8 minutes, there's no control there. It's absolutely all over the place. So bitterly frustrated that we can keep conceding this type of goal, and it just can't keep happening. It can't keep happening. You know, I could show you some more stats from the first half. You know, Watkins, 4 touches. He's had 4 touches in the first half. He's made 2 out of 2 accurate passes. You know, you're talking 47 minutes and our attacker has only touched it 4 times. You know, we've got to get him into the game more. He's got to come a little bit deeper sometimes, link it up, move around a bit. So, you know, it was really frustrating to see how we played in that first half. You know, if you have a look at the momentum bar, we had a bit of decent momentum. We were all right. We had possession. Let's have a look at the possession stats then. So first half, we had 65% possession. We had no shots. They had 5. We had 242 passes. And it was just a bit, worse than Leicester, like I said, on the fan cam. Now, second half, it starts to get a lot better, doesn't it? Because we're starting to play forward more. We're starting to positionally get in the right areas. And I thought that we were far better when Ramsey was on. Maatsen started getting on the ball. I thought Maatsen had a really good second half. Again, I thought he was dynamic. So, you know, we started to, especially in the second half, look a lot better. So we have a look, we had total shots first half, none. Second half, 16. So you can see the difference between the first half and the second half. It's night and day. And it's like we'd unleashed ourselves a little bit to just play a little bit more expressive and be a little bit more creative. I think Mings I don't think he had as much as the ball in the second half. I think it didn't go through him as much. I think sometimes when we are struggling, there needs to be more responsibility on Bailey, on Rodgers, on Watkins. I thought Tielemans wasn't the best, was he? I don't think that number 10 role suits him anymore. I've got to say that number 10 role, I don't like him in there. I don't like him. I don't like him pressing. And I just think he's so lost in that position. So I've got to say, I don't like that as well. So second half, then, the big things that were happening was, and I've got to say this, guys, I'm going to have a little bit of a rant here. I've heard about the commentary. I've heard what has been said from pundits, etc. And do you know what? I don't care. I'll tell you why I don't care. Because Jhon Duran shouldn't have been sent off. I've heard the audio from the PGMOL, from the ref. Oh, I'm giving red then, right? From that moment, I don't care, right? Was it a corner? No. But I can show you some other things that it probably should have been. And first thing that we'll see, because I watched the highlights when I got back, and the title was Controversial Aston Villa Goal Sees Villa Through or something. So, okay, minutes before this corner that we shouldn't have had, this happened. We should have had a corner, and we didn't get a corner. But I haven't heard anybody mention that. And then what we'll see is that Maatsen starts getting into this area, starts out, he's had 2 shots, 2 very well hit shots. Again, Earl will love this. avfc scout, shooting from distance, have more shots, test the keeper. He could spill it. We don't need to keep passing it into the back of the net. So Maatsen was starting to get into those areas. And then we get the corner that we scored from. So we've got Maatsen, edge of the box, takes a shot. We've got 2 players that are reacting, Watkins and Onana, and we're able to score that goal. So absolutely fantastic. But what you will see, and what I haven't really heard anything of, which is a little bit strange, this here now, this is the shot from Onana that goes out for a goal kick that we get a corner from. Notice why it goes out for a corner. Can we see Alvarez pulling Onana? Can we see now that Onana is starting to look off balance while he takes the shot? Any reason why that could be? Maybe because it could have been a penalty that he's being pulled back while he's about to take a strike for the ball. I don't know. I mean, Lee Dixon's not mentioned it. I've not heard anybody mention it. But if we have another little look, we can see that he's still grabbed hold of him. He's leaning back. We'll take a closer look. He's got hands on his shirt, pulling him back. I don't know, I think that might be why it did go out for a goal kick. But let's just ignore that part of it, and we'll just focus on the fact that we shouldn't have scored that goal. We could go back to this one and have a look at the corner we should have had, but we didn't get. But, I'm not going to stay here and moan about it. We'll just move on from this one. And then I spoke about why I like Tielemans in midfield and not off the striker, because this is an Aston Villa goal that is just exquisite. This is what we're trying to do in midfield. Yuri Tielemans picking up that ball in this area. Why has that got that colour? Right, in this area. It must have been a lapse from West Ham because they've allowed him to do this. And a beautiful run from Emi Buendia, peeling off the 2 midfielders. Straight ball through there. And then Aston Villa are away. We are motoring. We are on our way. A nice little ball from Buendia to Ollie Watkins. Watkins does fantastic here. We then get into this area where, I've got to be honest, when he got into this area for this guy, I thought we were going to score from here. I just really felt it. He does really well. Nice little step overs. He's able to find Rodgers. It's in the back of the net, and Aston Villa are 2-1 up. But this goal was absolutely class. And Buendia was brilliant when he came on. He looked sharper, fitter, fresher. His execution of his passes were brilliant. Again, subs coming off the bench, changing the game. Nedeljkovic, brilliant. If he goes out on loan, I think it could be good for him to keep playing games. And he'll be a good player for Villa, I think. He's very, very young, very raw, but I like what I see from him. Very quick. Soon as he got to the byline, get it in the box. So very, very good from him. And then finally, the only way you can stop Rodgers is by trying to foul him. And it's a very random challenge, but he tries to get his head on it. But yeah, Rodgers in this instance was just tearing through at this point. So I think second half was 10 times better, moving the ball quicker, getting into the right areas. There was a lot more movement. There was a lot more, a bit more aggression about us, a little bit more swagger about us. So a game of two halves. First half, absolutely shocking. Second half, loads better. So we need to stop conceding these goals and these chances and these first shots on target. I mean, how many shots have they actually had? I want to know. Oh, they've had 11 shots. So they have had 11 shots, which is quite a lot. But what I will say as well, I know he gets stick, right? Olsen. He gets a lot of stick. But towards the end of the game, why doesn't he come for those crosses? Why is he stuck on his line? There was 2 times towards the end of that game where I said to the guy next to me, he's got to come for this. There were 2 set pieces. He needed to just come for it, claim it, because the balls were just going straight on him, and he didn't. And then Ings at the end of the game has that sort of little half chance. He's got to come for those crosses. Got to relieve the pressure sometimes. So all in all, I thought he was okay, really. He didn't really do anything wrong, did he? But he's got to come for some of them crosses towards the end of the game and release that pressure for us. So I'm absolutely buzzing that we are through to the next round. We're in the hat, which is really, really good. I thought it was a brilliant occasion at Villa Park. Absolutely loved it. From the tifo to the video that they played before the game, to all of the branding and marketing that they've done for this game. I've absolutely loved it. And to share it with the friends that I go with, etc., like Ryan and Justin, 150 years of Aston Villa. It was a really good little celebration. And I think the club did really well with it, to be fair. I think they've got the legends out on the pitch as well. So I thought it was really, really good. So I think that's everything that I wanted to talk about on this episode. We may be back later with a transfer hub if there's any more significant news. We've got a brand new feature starting tomorrow. So hopefully you all enjoy this new little feature that I'm going to be doing once a week. I think you'll like it. Should be quite good. Something different anyway. So, yeah. So if you've got this far and you aren't subscribed, make sure you do subscribe. It'll be good for you to do that for me. If you want to hit a like on the way out as well, do that. That will show that you appreciate the video and you've enjoyed it. And if you have got this far, you should be dropping it a lot because I've held your attention for 29 minutes. So that's pretty good. And yeah, just comment your thoughts on what you think, really. So up the Villa, everyone. And I'll speak to you all on the next one.